tax rate to 20%. Joining me now, Congressman John Garamendi from California. Congressman, always good to see you, sir. Thank you for joining me. You heard him there. Do you agree?
Yep.
Do you agree with essentially the trickle-down economics theory?
Absolutely not. There's no evidence of that. You take a look. Let's take a real-time experience. AT&T Corporation, I think most of us know it. Over the last 8 years, they've reduced their tax rate, effective tax rate, to 8%. Guess how many people they've hired? They've laid off 80,000 people, and yet their tax rate is at 8%. There are many other examples. You can take a look across the S&P 500 over the last several decades. You go back 30 years, maybe 60% of the after-tax profits were invested in business growth, in capital investment, jobs, research and development. The rest went for investors, dividends, and executive salaries. Today, it's switched over. 10% goes to economic growth, jobs, wages, salaries, capital investment, R&D. Where's the other 90% goes? It goes to the investors. It goes to stock market buybacks. It goes to executive salaries. It does not go to the workers. You wonder why the wage stagnation has taken place in corporate America? Those are the statistics that tell you what's happening. Trickle-down does not work. Besides that, this thing really provides 50% of the total tax breaks go to the top 1% and to corporations. That is not going to create jobs in America. And besides that, there is a deficit. Alex, there really is a deficit. Where'd the deficit hawks go?
Right.
The deficit in the United States now, the structural deficit is over $500 billion a year. They want to add another $115 billion to it just this year, and then you go on into, in 2020, you're looking at $1 trillion structural deficit.
So look, you're giving me facts and figures. Facts and figures are black and white. I mean, you do the math, you add them up, however it comes about. But the fact that you're talking about this and you're refuting the plans that the Republicans are putting forward, is that as a result of no discussion behind closed doors, that not getting into committees and including Democrats and Republicans to try to reach solutions together before putting out a tax plan? Is that what's at the crux of this whole problem?
Well, it certainly is. You take a look at the last big tax cut, which Republicans like to talk about, which was 1986, Ronald Reagan. It took them over 2 years, multiple hearings all around the nation, 30 hearings in the Ways and Means Committee, and more and more. And they had the experts in. What does it mean if you reduce the tax rate? What does it mean if you take this or that deduction? Make it bigger, make it smaller? What is the effect of it? None of that, absolutely none of that has taken place. It's all done very secretly. They're trying to ram it through before the American public has any idea what's going on. They tried that with the Affordable Care Act, but even so, it took them 6 months. And when the American public found out, what happened? Well, what happened was 14% of the American public thought it was a good idea. The rest of them said, well, wait a minute, you're about to really screw us. And that's exactly what's going to happen. This is a two-step. This is a two-step. First of all, you reduce the taxes, and then you're going to come back. Think of it this way. The deficit hawks have migrated south. As soon as it warms up in the spring, they're going to come back, and what they will do is to go after Medicare and Medicaid. It is already signaled in their budget proposal. They're going to take $1 trillion out of Medicaid, 60–70% of which goes to seniors and nursing homes, and they're going to cut Medicare by $500 billion. That's their plan. It's a two-step.
That kind of information, I'm sure, is sending a chill down the spines of many that are listening right now. I do want to get to the situation, the tragedy in Niger a few weeks ago, because there are some new questions today surrounding the death of Sergeant LaDavid Johnson, of course, killed in action there along with 3 other American soldiers. It happened over a month ago now. The Washington Post is reporting some pretty horrifying details about this ambush. They're suggesting that Johnson may have been captured, bound, tortured, and executed. First, sir, I want to take a listen to Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, a friend of the Johnson family, who spoke with Reverend Sharpton on Politics Nation today. Here she is.
Did he get a mile from the battlefield? Who tied his hands in front of him? Who bounded him like that? We are just so distraught, and Maisha is just a wreck.
Why are there no answers for this family, sir? Can't one demand the whole picture? Why is this information just coming out in dribs and drabs? It's been over a month.
Yeah. There's no good reason. Most of the information is known. I suspect that the Army, the military, is being very slow because they don't want to have to back up on any detail. That's not right. There really needs to be as much information early on. And when you state that information, say, this is preliminary, this is the best we know of the situation now, and this could very well change as we gather more facts. But the military is very, very hesitant to do that, to the dismay of many of us, and certainly to the family. This is a horrible, horrible way to die, and the other three soldiers also died. The question for us in the public policy arena in Congress is, why are we there? Is there a better way? Is this train and assist the right thing to do? My concern is that we may very well pour more soldiers into this and not get to the underlying problems of the economic dislocation that's occurring in the area, the radicalization that is also available in the area because of climate change and the Sahara Desert moving south into the area where these people have lived for decades and centuries.
Congressman, look, you serve on the Armed Services Committee. Is there anyone you can lobby to try to get more information?
Well, certainly we do, and we try, but the military has been very clear. They're going to issue their report in January. To my knowledge, at this point, absent more outcries by Frederica and myself and others, they will be very slow in coming forth with information. The fact of the matter is this was a tragedy, and probably preventable for a variety of reasons. Bad intelligence, better preparation, and also recognizing or the operation ignoring the fact that they were in a very, very dangerous, hostile area to begin with. Beyond that, we have got to decide as the American public, and particularly in Congress, how are we going to deal with the radicalization, the violent extreme organizations that are flourishing across this broad swath of Africa, from the West Coast to the East Coast and Somalia into South Sudan and the rest. It's a major area of concern, and we're not going to be able to, in my view, solve it. I was a Peace Corps volunteer, my wife and I, in Ethiopia. We're familiar with this area. Economic development, social justice, those issues are profoundly important. Continuation of what we're doing is going to lead to more Americans dying.
Representative John Garamendi of California, sobering words and conversation. Thank you very much, sir. Coming up, some Republicans are calling for a write-in candidate to take Roy Moore's place.